Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Welcome back, Battles, American Civil War, Behind the Battles. Moving on to a Confederate on this day's episode. Senior officer, old Hindman was. He was also a Mexican-American war veteran. He was a law practitioner elected to the Mississippi House of Representatives. Then he was also a United States House of Representatives. That's all before the war. And he actually, I think he's the first guy outright supported secession. All the other Confederates we covered didn't want it at first, but then chose to take, obviously, side with the Confederacy because their states went there.
All right.
He was like, yeah, we need to secede. Yes, that's Thomas Hindman. And then his life ended with assassination during the Reconstruction era because some people didn't like what he was saying.
Oh, son of a bitch.
We'll get there. Thomas Carmichael Hindman Jr., he was born January 28, 1828, to Thomas C. Hindman Sr. and Sally Holt Hindman. His family roots, they stretch back all the way to English and Scottish ancestry. And his dad, he served in the 39th United States Infantry during the War of 1812. And some family stories floating around out there even claim that his dad was the first white male ever born in Knoxville, Tennessee. The Hindmans, they moved around quite a bit. Thomas Sr. and Sally, they lived in Rhea County, then Post Oak Springs. But they eventually circled back to Knoxville, and that's where old Tommy Jr. was born. He was the fifth of 6 children.
His daddy's work kept the family on the move. Thomas Sr. often traveled down into Alabama for business. By 1841, the whole family had relocated to Jacksonville, Alabama. A lot of his dealings were involved working with Cherokee people. He actually built up such a level of trust with them that he was appointed as an Indian agent.
I'm an Indian agent. Looking out for the Cherokee people. But was I?
Right. His work wasn't easy. It required a lot of travel. Everything back then required a lot of travel.
Right.
No matter what you did, if you got to go to the outhouse.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
His work wasn't easy. It required a lot of travel. At one point, he served as quartermaster during Cherokee removal.
Oh.
Meaning he was present on sections of the Trail of the Tears.
He sure was.
Right, because the only way they would go, they were like, hey, these guys are going
Some
to...
familiar faces at least.
Right. Then you think they'll get pissed at them. What are you doing?
Don't know why they tell me.
A light feather.
Well, though daddy away so often and educational opportunities limited in know-nothing town of Jacksonville.
Right.
Oh, young Tommy, he was sent up north to New York to live with relatives. From there, he enrolled at the Lawrenceville Classical Institute in New Jersey.
Okay.
School that was pretty rigorous. Students focused heavily on English grammar, classical Greek and Latin, plus math and history. What history? They also placed a big emphasis on debate, oratory, and religious instruction. And like many young men in boarding schools at the time, Hindman, he was probably hazed while he was there. Of course, why not?
Yeah, what are you going to do? Despite challenges, he thrived. Oh, Thomas Jr. graduated in 1843. And not just that. He did so as his class
Salutatorian.
salutatorian. Yeah. This has earned him the highest academic of all honors.
Yeah, he might have been, he had the best grades. What's a valedictorian?
I think that all of it.
Dictorian.
Like
Excelled in everything.
class president
Right.
and all that bullshit. Afterward, he spent a little more time in New York before rejoining his family back home, back down south. He's like, those northern folks sure are weird. I tell you what. They moved to Ripley, Mississippi since he went to New York.
Wow.
His father became a pretty prominent in local politics. Thomas Jr. started establishing himself there as well. In old Mississippi, he farmed cotton. Well, he didn't farm.
All right.
He farmed cotton while he studied law under a respected local attorney, and you might know him as Orlando Davis. Then in 1846, the Mexican-American War broke out. We're like, no, we need...
So no military school for this guy.
Right.
Well,
Oh.
one of the few.
Like many ambitious young men at his time, Hindman got swept up in the excitement of fighting those Mexicans. We whooped those British, we can surely beat those Mexicans, right?
Right.
He believed Mexico had wronged the United States, and he saw the war as his chance to prove himself and maybe even win some glory for old Gertrude across the street.
When the war kicked off, 1846, President James Polk, they called on the states to provide 50,000 volunteers.
Oh.
In Mississippi, Governor Albert Brown, he jumped at the chance. He authorized the creation of multiple companies, expecting that his state would be asked to contribute more than one unit.
Oh.
But as it turned out, Mississippi was only allowed to raise one single regiment, which was the Mississippi Rifles.
That meant a lot of young, eager men, including Thomas himself. They suddenly found themselves without a spot to serve.
Uh-oh. We'll go to somewhere else. You don't have to serve for your state.
They have to. For a while, it looked like Hindman's chance at glory in the war had slipped away. But by November, luck turned in his favor. I don't know if it's luck that he gets to go to war. I guess back then. Other states, they weren't able to fill their quotas. So Mississippi got permission to form a 2nd Infantry.
Look at that.
This time, both Thomas and his older brother Robert signed up. Thomas earned a commission as a 2nd lieutenant, while his brother Robert, unfortunately, he had to leave service not too long after due to medical issues.
Oh.
Damn bone spurs.
Hindman's unit, the 2nd Mississippi, was organized and began training in January 1847 at Camp McClung, which is near Vicksburg. From there, they moved south to New Orleans, and by late February, they were shipped to the mouth of the Rio Grande River.
Ooh.
Over the next year, the regiment bounced around to various posts, including Saltillo and Buena Vista, though they arrived after the famous battle that had already been fought there.
Of course, just like a couple other people we talked about.
Right.
Well, here's the truth, folks. 2nd Mississippi didn't see much in the way of combat. Nope. Other than a handful of small raids, their time in Mexico was dominated by hardship. Disease had swept through the ranks and caused more suffering than enemy fire.
And it's every war up until modern day.
Still, Hindman carried out his duties well. Historian William Shea described him as serving capably in his role as a junior officer. In fact, for part of his service, Thomas, he worked at a post adjutant at a place called Mazafil, holding that post from April 26 all the way into May of 1848.
Couple weeks. Good for you.
Right.
Well, maybe it was a year.
Right. After Hindman's regiment made its way back home in Mississippi in 1848, life quickly turned turbulent for the family.
Oh, what happened now?
Because just 1 year later, in the month of May, 1849, tragedy has struck the Hindman family. Thomas's older brother, Robert, as we said earlier, was expelled from the army for having bone spurs. He was killed.
We don't know. Allegedly.
Allegedly. He was killed in a quarrel. Damn you, William Clark Faulkner. He was killed in a quarrel with a man named William Clark Faulkner.
Oh, no.
Son of a bitch. What's the story?
Well, the story goes, Faulkner, he believed Robert had tried to block him from joining the Sons of Temperance, which is a popular brotherhood of the day. So they wanted...
He wanted to be in a secret society.
Temperance, doesn't that mean like from alcohol and shit? The temperance movement?
No, like Freemasons.
Yeah, temperance. Yeah, but they believed in like no alcohol and shit, obviously. That's what temperance means.
Right.
Well, the argument escalated and Robert pulled out a gun, but it misfired.
Oh, you son of a... It's his own fault.
You got to clean your weapons, bud.
Right. And why was he going to kill the guy? Just because they were arguing.
That's what happens.
I guess.
Faulkner, he responded by stabbing him to death.
Oh, shit.
Despite the circumstances, Faulkner was acquitted in court. I mean, he was defending himself.
Right.
And disturbingly, this wasn't the last time. He also later killed a family friend of the Hindmans, and he once again walked free after another acquittal. Jeez.
The tension between Faulkner and the Hindmans nearly erupted into even more violence.
Uh-oh, do we have like a Hatfield McCoy situation? Faulkner and Hindmans?
Right. What was,
The Braithwaites and the Grays?
At one point, Thomas got himself into a gunfight with Faulkner himself.
Oh, no, couldn't avenge his brother's death, though.
He's like, my name is Thomas C. Hindman.
Junior. You killed my brother.
Killed my brother. Prepare to die. With the same gun that misfired on Faulkner. Son of a bitch. No one was hurt, but things got close enough that the two men almost fought a formal duel. It was only narrowly avoided. Despite all of this, Hindman actually joined the Sons of Temperance himself in the early 1850s. He didn't just join. Nope. He became an active in the organization and even served as what they called a recording scribe. Well, if you join something,
He's a
you
record keeper.
Right. You got to be active in an organization if you join it, right? Can't just join and never show up again.
Sure, you can pay your dues.
Meanwhile, he wrapped up his legal training under Orlando Davis, and he was admitted to the bar in 1851. He's officially a lawyer. Truth is, though,
We don't just raise the bar.
Right.
We are the bar.
we are the bar. Truth is, though, Hindman, he quickly discovered that his real passion wasn't law at all. It was politics. I mean, it's good to have a law background if you're going to be in politics.
Yeah. Well, as you know, this time At this time in the 1850s, Mississippi's political climate, it was dominated by one thing and one thing only. Should slavery be allowed in the new territories the U.S. had gained from the Mexican-American War? Hindman, he threw himself in the thick of it. He became a delegate at both a county Democratic Party convention and the state one. Okay. He aligned with the faction of the party that supported expanding slavery into those territories. He's like, hell yeah!
Yep, got to do it.
Well, in the 1851 gubernatorial election, Hindman initially backed John Quitman, but when Quitman quit, he shifted his support to Jefferson Davis.
Oh, Jefferson Davis.
That election was a close one. Davis and the pro-states' rights Democrats, they lost by a slim margin, but Davis, he would come back to win the governorship just 2 years later in 1853.
Yeah, they were like, well, let's see what. All right, no, let's go back.
And this same year, it marked a turning point for Hindman personally.
Oh, what happened there? Well, he was elected to the Mississippi House of representing Tipple County. Once in office, he was appointed to the Judiciary Committee and quickly began pushing for a slate of reforms. What kind of reforms, you ask? Well, he backed tax reform, education reform, changes to the Mississippi Chancery Court system. He also was like, you know what? Do all that. I'm going to throw in Fugitive Slave Act of 1858.
Meaning?
Which is...
any slaves get caught in the North must be returned.
Yeah. And on top of that, old Hindman, he tried, though without much success, to hold a new railroad company accountable, making sure they followed the requirements laid out in their charters. Oh, and
why is that unsuccessful?
Because the railroad companies did what the fuck they wanted to do. Crazy. So in March of 1854, Hindman's term in the Mississippi legislature come to an end. Looking around, he decided Mississippi politics was just too crowded.
Yeah, Mississippi was a pretty crowded place.
Too many ambitious men chasing too few positions. But across the Mississippi River in Arkansas, well, guess what? It's all kinds of seats open. This is a state that's still rough around the edges, far less developed, full of opportunities for a young man like Thomas.
He's like, I can go there and take advantage of a whole lot of people.
Damn right.
June of that year, Hindman, he packed up and moved west, settling in Helena.
Oh, is it Helena? Like Montana?
Sure. It didn't take long for him to make waves over there, though. He set up a law partnership with John Palmer, and he jumped straight into politics.
Oh, again.
One of his first big moments came at a 4th of July barbecue.
Damn right.
Where he got into a heated political debate with cotton planter James Alcorn.
Oh, my.
Hindman, he held his own, but the encounter earned him a bit of a reputation as well. He's like, wait a minute, this dude's got something brewing on this guy. Well, see, Hindman was known something as a dandy.
Oh yeah, dandy.
Which means
Yankee Doodle dandy.
Well-dressed, stylish, and maybe a little too polished for the rough and tumble Arkansas frontier.
He stuck a feather in his hat and called it macaroni.
The day after his debate with Alcorn, a local Whig, he mocked him by calling him my sweet-scented individual. Oh no. My gay boy, my little bitch boy.
Right.
Well, Hindman, he didn't take too kindly to insults. The two men actually agreed to settle the matter in a duel with Bowie knives. Luckily, cooler heads prevailed once again. Patrick Cleburne, who would go on to become a Confederate general, and Gideon Pillow, also a Confederate general, they stepped in and managed to defuse the situation before it got bloody.
Ooh-wee. He's, I'll show you a dandy motherfucker. That same political season, Hindman didn't run for office himself, but instead he built up his reputation as an orator, focusing on railroad issues that would benefit Helena. Railroads were the hot topic of the day, and Hindman used it to get himself noticed. Now, while all this was going on, Hindman was also entertaining bigger, more radical ambitions. Because of the summer of 1854, he corresponded with former Mississippi governor, John Quitman, who quit the other race that we're doing, right? He spoke to him about a filibustering expedition. Well, this was an attempt to annex Cuba and bring it into the United States as a new slave state. Hindman never made it on the expedition, though, because events in Arkansas soon took a violent turn.
Ooh. That's because in January of 1855, while lobbying for railroads in Little Rock, Hindman, he got in trouble. He offended a newspaper editor named Charles Danley, and two of Danley's friends decided to defend his honor. One of them, Dr. Moon, he confronted Hindman and pulled a pistol.
Oh.
Hindman was unarmed, but rather than back down, he told Moon he'd fight him later when he had a weapon of his own. Let's make it a fair fight.
Damn.
Well, the very next day inside the Arkansas House of Representatives building, things escalated. Moon, he showed up again with his associate, a man named Wilson. Is that fitting? Wilson, he pulled a pistol on Hindman, but this time Hindman said, I'm ready. He shot Dr. Moon with a Derringer and then drew another weapon on Wilson.
Damn. This guy. Son of a bitch. The scene quickly spiraled out of control. Angry mob formed around Hindman, furious at the shooting, and he was arrested. He eventually made bail, went back to Helena, and after a trial, he was acquitted.
Of course it was. They showed up to the freaking House of Representatives.
But that brush with the law had consequences. It kept him from going to Cuba with Quitman's expedition. Because leaving the country right then would have made him look like he was running from justice. By 1855, Hindman, he was juggling a lot. He had law, he had politics, he had family, he had friends, even some social reform as well. He was still active in temperance work, though. Continued to support groups that pushed for moderation in alcohol use. But that spring, he threw himself even deeper into the Arkansas politics. Because at the time, one of the loudest political movements in the South was the Know Nothing Party. They were a group of the Democrats, weren't they? Yeah, it was the outcast from the Democrats. They were staunchy anti-immigrant, anti-Catholic, often carried a strong abolitionist streak.
Doesn't sound too Democrat to me.
Hindman wanted nothing to do with them. He opposed them on several fronts. He disagreed with their stance against slavery. He didn't share their hostility toward immigrants. He felt that their attacks on the Catholics violated religious liberty.
This dude loved slavery and all that shit.
Right.
But welcomed, like, I guess immigrants is not illegal, but other people coming in and working and doing shit, but not the blacks.
No. Crazy.
That would push back. Hindman organized a Democratic Party association, and he had strong support from his law partner, John Palmer, who himself was a Catholic, ironically.
Ooh, of course.
That year, Hindman traveled all over northern Arkansas, speaking against the Know-Nothings, warning audiences about their perceived abolitionist leanings.
Right.
His right-hand man during this campaign was none other than Patrick Claiborne. This is the same man who had once stepped in to prevent Hindman from dueling with Bowie knives, like we said. By late November, Hindman capped off the year with a huge rally in Helena, firmly established himself as a political voice in the state.
Damn right. Now they know who he is. Sounds like a little bit like Abe.
Somewhat.
That wasn't the only thing cementing his bond with Claiborne. Because in the fall of 1855, Helena was hit by a devastating yellow fever.
Damn yellow fever.
While most people fled, Hindman, Claiborne, and a local minister were among the few who stayed. They volunteered as nurses, helping doctors care for the sick. That's what nurses do. That experience forged a deep friendship between Hindman and Claiborne. They survived the frickin' epidemic, baby. In fact, the two men, they later went in together to purchase a newspaper. And they named it the States' Rights Democrat, which is a platform to promote their views. You got to do that, right? Because by early 1856, Hindman, he was ready to take the next step in his life. He goes, you know what? We did some good in Arkansas. I'm going to run for Congress, specifically for the Arkansas 1st Congressional District. From January through mid-March, he launched a speaking tour across northern Arkansas, hammering home his opposition to both the Know-Nothings and abolitionism. He's like, these Republicans and these Know-Nothing Democrats know nothing. Right?
Yeah, but there was a problem with that run for Congress because the Democratic Party, they already had a nomination that belonged to a well-liked incumbent who was Alfred Greenwood. At the party convention in May, Hindman, he challenged him head-on. What followed was political theater, they say.
Oh.
The delegates voted and voted and voted. 276 rounds of balloting. Jeez. And still it was deadlocked. Finally, Saturday morning, Hindman withdrew to preserve party unity.
There you go, bud.
Instead of sulking, he threw himself into Greenwood's campaign, working so hard that historians say that Hindman was actually more visible on the trail than Greenwood himself. Well, that's how they did it anyways.
Right. That decision, well, it paid off in the long run for old Hindman. He lost that year, but it kept him in the spotlight and set him up as a strong contender for the 1858 race. Politics wasn't his only fight that year. His loud attacks on the Know-Nothings sparked a bitter feud with the state legislator W.D. Rice. From the summer of 1855 into the spring of 1856, the two traded barbs through hostile letters in local newspapers. Bitches. Things finally...
It's hilarious, too. Only thing that changed is now you can do it on the internet, on Twitter. Right. That's basically what they're doing.
Things finally came to a head. May 24th, 1856. Rice showed up with 3 of his relatives.
Oh, jeez.
While Hindman stood side by side with Claiborne. Everyone was armed, and everyone knew it was going to turn violent.
What's up with this guy getting people to get his posse on him?
Right, holy shit.
Well, Rice fired the first shot, hitting Hindman in the arm and side.
Yeah.
Hindman and Claiborne, they shot back, and in the chaos, Claiborne was struck through the right lung.
Oh, no.
Which nearly killed him. One of Rice's relatives was mortally wounded, and he died 3 days later. And somehow Hindman and Claiborne survived, and both were legally acquitted afterwards, I'm sure.
Holy shit. Wow.
Yeah, what's going on in Arkansas?
Right. Even amid all this bloodshed, Hindman's personal life, it was changing. Because in 1856, he began courting Mary Watkins Biscoe, the daughter of a wealthy Arkansas family guy. Her family disapproved of the match and even tried to stop it, but Hindman said, let's have a duel.
Right.
But Hindman, he wouldn't be deterred. At one point, he reportedly snuck into a convent just to see her.
A nun?
The couple pushed through the opposition, and on November 11th, 1856, they were married, with none other than Patrick Claiborne standing as Hindman's best man.
Oh,
damn
friends.
Right. Him and his iron lung.
This marriage, he's walking around with a big old machine. This marriage was more than romantic. It was strategic. See, Mary's father, he was a major landowner, and 2 of her uncles, they also held statewide political office. The marriage gave Hindman not only love and marriage and companionship, but also a boost in wealth, influence, and social status. And it solidified his place among Arkansas' rising elites. All right.
Okay, cool, man. 1857 is near the end of it. Hindman, he was ready to make another push for Congress. But this time the political landscape looked a lot friendlier. The know-nothings had been crushed in the 1856 elections, so they weren't even a serious factor anymore. Hindman didn't face much resistance inside of his own Democratic Party either. He was popular with Arkansas Democrats. He easily secured the nomination for the 1st Congressional District. Good for him, right? In the next general election, he went up against none other than William M. Crosby, and he defeated him without much of trouble. But the old campaign left him with more than just a seat in the old Congress.
This guy, are you sure you want to go to war, guy? Because you're getting nothing but bad luck.
Right. But the campaign, it left him with more than just a seat in Congress. It left him with a permanent injury.
Appointment.
During the race, Hindman was involved in a carriage accident that broke his leg. The break didn't heal right, and from then on, his one leg was 2 inches longer than the other.
Oh, jeez.
He had to wear a specially... Yeah, it's huge. He had to wear a specially made boot to walk. To boot. He carried a limp. He carried it with him for the rest of his life.
All right, Everett. And now, for decades, Arkansas politics had been dominated by a powerful coalition known as the Family. Family. Also called the Conway-Johnson dynasty.
Oh.
They held the state together politically by stressing democratic unity against Whigs and know-nothings.
Right.
But by the late 1850s, those opposition parties were gone.
Yeah,
the family's grip was slipping.
Mm-hmm.
They had supported Hindman's 1858 congressional run, but Hindman wasn't content to just sit in Congress. He had his eyes on some bigger things.
Oh, he wanted to go to the next step, which was the United States Senate. He wanted a seat held by William K. Sebastian, one of the family's own. Oh, friendly fire, baby. Naturally, that would put him on a collision course with them, right? The family stood behind Sebastian while Hindman began rallying his own faction of Democrats, a group that became known as the Old Line Democrats. He did that to boost his influence. He founded a newspaper as well in Little Rock in 1859 called the Old Line Democrat. Come and get it.
You just found a newspaper to spew out your propaganda. The conflict deepened after a pro-family convention in late 1858 changed the nominating rules. Oh. Traditionally, candidate selection had been handled tightly within the Democratic Party. But now the convention opened the doors to former Whigs and know-nothings as well.
Uh-oh.
Hindman saw that as a blatant power grab to scare Sebastian's renomination. He protested loudly, and in response, Richard Johnson and other family leaders threatened to block Hindman's re-election in 1860. He said, oh yeah? Not only will you not get Senate, you won't even be in Congress at all.
Wow.
To them, Hindman was nothing but a factious disorganizer.
All right.
Historians later summed it up by saying Hindman's oratorical and organizational skills were unmatched by any other politician in the state, though.
Look at this guy. Look at this guy. A lot of the fighting between Hindman and family boiled down to money, as it always does. Specifically, the state's long-lasting financial mess left over from the Panic of 1837. Back then, the Real Estate Bank of Arkansas had collapsed, leaving the state saddled with debt. Hindman proposed slashing the debt by foreclosing on mortgages the bank still held, by suing stockholders, many of whom were conveniently members of his own family, for the collateral they had pledged.
But did give up.
Right.
The family struck back. Johnson accused Hindman of pushing that plan for selfish reasons, pointing out that Hindman's wealthy father-in-law had once been a trustee of the bank.
Oh, no.
And owed it money himself.
Okay, whatever.
Hindman fired back with his own accusations, claiming the state government had unfairly awarded a lucrative printing contract to a family-owned newspaper, the True Democrat.
Oh.
The family countered by saying Hindman was just bitter because he wanted a contract for one of his two papers, either the States' Rights Democrat or the Old Line Democrat.
Oh, probably that.
Jeez.
Oh, geez, OP, wow. The feud only escalated, and Hindman even tried, unsuccessfully, to change the state's congressional election dates. Both camps started accusing each other of being secretly backed by the Know-Nothings. Then came an especially embarrassing episode, November 1859. Hindman promised to appear in Little Rock to publicly argue against the family, but instead he went to Mississippi, saying that illness in his family kept him away.
Well, his absence gave the family ammo. Robert Ward Johnson called him a bully and an imposter, and the insult nearly led to a duel that December. Oh my gosh.
Shit.
Around the same time, newspapers loyal to the family accused Hindman of writing pro-Hindman letters under the pen name Viator. He initially denied it, but later admitted that, yes, he had been involved with writing them.
Wow. Jeez, oh, Peter, this is getting out of hand here. All of this turmoil shook Arkansas and its politics to its core. By 1860, the nation's on the brink of civil war. The Democratic Party in the state was deeply divided. The convention to select a candidate for governor, the family pulled every string they could. They manipulated delegate selection and the voting process. They did that to make sure that their man, Richard Johnson, he was the nomination.
Dick Johnson. By that summer, though, a challenger appeared. That was Henry Rector. Rector was technically part of the family's network, but he was a lower-ranking member, and he wasn't willing to simply fall in line either. He opposed Johnson, though he didn't directly ally with Hindman either. Still, Hindman quietly supported Rector, seeing him as the better option. And meanwhile, Hindman easily secured his own party's nomination for Congress again, though his critics complained he was exerting too much influence over the nominating commission.
Oh, wow. Some even accused him of neglecting his duties in Washington to focus on home state politics. The GOP race between Rector and Johnson turned bitter, fueled more by personal rivalries than actual policy differences. Secession was in the air. Johnson was painted as pro-secession, while voters who opposed secession leaned toward Rector. In the end, Rector defeated Johnson handily. Hindman handily won a re-election to Congress over his challenger, Jesse Seipert. The results of the 18 election were clear. The once powerful family had been broken. Their long reign over Arkansas politics over. And they would never, ever again regain their old dominance.
Well, Hindman's political career had always been built on firm pro-slavery ground as well.
Right.
He supported the right of slaveholders to take their slaves anywhere in U.S. territory. He even argued that the Union could only survive if slavery was protected, and even went as far as backing the resumption of the international slave trade, despite the fact that it had been banned for decades.
Right.
You got to find somebody to trade with. Well, that stance put him right in line with the most radical Southern Democrats of the time.
I don't think that's company he wants to be in, but I guess he does.
Apparently.
1859, Hindman joined other Southern leaders in opposing Republican John Sherman for Speaker of the House. Sherman attached his name to the compendium, supporting the impending crisis of the South by hitting Roe and Helper, which is a fiery anti-slavery work that Southerners are considered an outright attack on their own way of life. Hindman fired back in January of 1860 with a speech he titled, "That Black Republican Bible, the Helper Book," quote unquote. It was exactly the kind of aggressive oratory Southern audiences loved, and it helped rally support against Sherman. Sherman lost, and a compromised Republican William Pennington got the Speaker's gavel instead.
Somebody who can be controlled.
Right.
While in Congress, Hindman wasn't just hammering away on slavery. He had his hands in local and regional projects, too. He backed a canal to fix a Red River navigation problem. He pushed to lower public land prices. He also supported a railroad stretching from Memphis to Mexico.
I mean, who can deny that?
And even suggested that the Little Rock Arsenal should be turned into a school. Now, what do we need all these guns for?
Right.
But politics was heating up in 1860, and his focus soon shifted to the Democratic Party's unraveling. Yeah, they did.
Wow, because at the Charleston Convention, Democrats split wide open over slavery. The fight dragged on to a second convention in Baltimore. Tensions got so high that Hindman almost fought a duel again. This time with a delegate named Dr. William Hooper.
Give it a rest, Hindman. Holy shit.
Holy goodness. Hindman backed John Breckinridge, the pro-slavery candidate, while Stephen Douglas carried the moderate banner. When old Abe Lincoln won in November, Hindman interpreted it as the death knell for slavery's security in America. He said, "This is it, boys." Lincoln's like, "No, man, no, dude, I don't want to do that."
Just you can't take him anywhere else.
Right. He threw himself behind secession, warning all people of Arkansas that civil war might be inevitable.
Oh, yeah, and that storm came fast.
Did.
South Carolina seceded December 20th, 1860, and Hindman, he was quick to act. The very next day, he and Robert Ward Johnson, they hired Arkansas General Assembly urging a secession convention. Or they wired them. By February 1861, several deep South states were already gone. Arkansas voters approved the idea of a convention. At first, though, the delegates were cautious. But by March, they had rejected outright secession and even a statewide referendum, opting to hold off until August.
Then Fort Sumter happened. When the old Rebs, they opened fire in April of 1861, and Lincoln called for troops. Arkansas balked at the idea of sending soldiers against the South. Public opinion shifted almost overnight. Hindman hit the road, giving fiery speeches in parts of the state that had resisted secession, whipping up support for leaving the Union. 6th of May, 1861, the convention reversed itself and voted to leave the Union and join the Confederacy. Hindman was there in person, and he rushed to telegraph Confederate President Jefferson Davis the news. With Arkansas officially in rebellion, Hindman resigned his seat in the United States House of Representatives. The war had begun, and he was ready to fight.
Well, Hindman, he thought his political future would carry him straight into the Confederate Congress.
Nope.
After all, he was one of the loudest voices pushing Arkansas towards secession. But when the state chose its delegation, he was left out. You got to be pissed. The political establishment in Little Rock wasn't about to hand over too much power to a firebrand like him, fearing the radical forces would dominate.
Right.
Still, Hindman, he wasn't the type to sit quietly on the sidelines. He wanted to go find somebody to duel.
Right. Well, even if he wasn't in the convention, he had a hand in shaping Arkansas's war preparations. In fact, he wrote most of an ordinance that established a military board for the state. Good for him. Then he took matters in his own hands. He reached out directly to Confederate Secretary of War Leroy Pope Walker, and he got the green light to raise a regiment.
Look at that.
Good for him.
May 23rd, 1861, Hindman proudly announced the news back home. The catch: the Arkansas military board refused to supply his men with weapons, food, or even clothes.
I mean, they can barely even supply their own army.
Well, that meant Hindman had to house and feed his volunteers out of his own pocket, keeping them stationed at Helena and Pine Bluff until further orders came in. Originally, the regiment was supposed to head east to Richmond, but Union forces moving through Missouri suddenly made Arkansas vulnerable.
Ooh, here we go. So on 11th of June, 1861, new orders arrived. Hindman's men to stay put. His unit officially became the 2nd Arkansas Infantry Regiment. And on the 12th of June, Hindman was commissioned as a Confederate colonel. The regiment was assigned under Brigadier General William Hardee. But there was a big problem here, folks. Many Arkansas troops still in state service flat out refused to serve under Hardee. They weren't getting proper pay. The uniforms were inadequate. And some just went home instead of sticking it out.
Screw it.
So what did you do? I went home.
By September, Confederate command tried to tighten things up and short up. General Albert Sidney Johnston was given authority over all Confederate forces west of the Alleghenies. Hardee's force, including Hindman's regiment, they were transferred in Kentucky that month. Hindman, he stayed behind on recruiting duty before catching up. His efforts, they didn't go unnoticed. So on September 28th, he was promoted to Brigadier General. When he finally reached Kentucky, he was given command of one of Hardee's 2 brigades, with his friend old Patrick Claiborne commanding the other. Oh, look at that. And before the war ended, Hindman and his men, they saw action, skirmishing in minor fights including the Battle of Rowlett Station on December 17, 1861.
Fuck yeah, good for him.
Cool.
Early 1862, the tide was already turning against the Confederacy in the Western Theater. Because on the 8th of February, after Union forces captured Fort Henry and Fort Donelson, looking ready to fall, General Albert Sidney Johnston made the call to abandon Kentucky altogether. Said, we got to go. Hindman and his brigade pulled back through Murfreesboro, which is in Tennessee. Then they regrouped with the rest of the Confederate Army at Corinth, Mississippi.
And that became a staging ground. Johnson built up his numbers there, eventually gathering over 40,000 men. Alongside P.G.T. Beauregard, he began plotting a strike against Ulysses S. Grant's Union Army, which was camped near Pittsburgh Landing, Tennessee.
Uh-oh.
Hindman, now a brigade commander in Hardee's Corps, he would be part of that spear point, and he's going to go in the front.
Damn right. When the attack finally came, 6th of April, 1862, it opened one of the bloodiest engagements of the whole war, the Battle of Shiloh. Just before the fight, Hardee, he reorganized his corps into 2 makeshift divisions. Hindman's command now included not just his original brigade under Colonel Robert Shaver, but he also had Brigadier General S.A.M. Woods' brigade. I think they called him Sam.
Sure. They called Jeb, didn't they?
Right.
At dawn, Hindman's men clashed head-on with Union Colonel Everett Peabody's brigade. That skirmish cost the Confederates their element of surprise, but the fight pressed on. Woods' brigade managed to drive back another Union unit, but at a terrible price in casualties. Hindman himself personally led an assault that smashed through a Union brigade, showing his aggressive hands-on leadership style.
Fuck yeah. But the costs caught up to him. In the middle of heavy fighting against Colonel James Veach's Union brigade, Hindman's horse shot out from underneath him. The fall broke his leg and knocked him back out of action. Same leg? With Hindman down and Hardee away on another part of the battlefield, both Woods and Shaver's brigades were left leaderless, worn down, and they eventually had to fall back. The old Rebs fought ferociously that day, even managing to push the Union Army back toward the river. Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, the momentum didn't last. General Johnson himself was mortally wounded, as we know, during the fighting on April 6th. By the next day, Union reinforcements arrived in force, counterattacked, and they drove the Confederates from the field. Still, Hindman's reputation came out stronger. Both Hardee and Beauregard commended him for his performance at Shiloh, recognizing his courage and leadership, even though he left the battlefield with a broken leg instead of a victory.
Well,
what are you going to do?
After Shiloh, Hindman limped back home to Helena to recover. His leg was busted, but his career wasn't, because by mid-April, he'd been promoted to Major General. This dated back to April 14th, and by May 10th, he reported back to duty at Corinth. Just 2 weeks later, Beauregard gave him a massive assignment. He said, I want you to go west of the Mississippi, take charge of Arkansas and the Indian Territory, and don't you let anybody tell you what to do. Within a day, those orders expanded even further. Hindman now controlled Arkansas, Missouri, the Indian Territory, and northern Louisiana above the Bed River, which is close to the Red River. It was an enormous command, but one handed to him in disastrous
You
condition.
gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
It was when Hindman arrived at Little Rock on May 30th, he found the place nearly stripped bare. Earl Van Dorn had hauled most of the men and supplies across the Mississippi, which left Arkansas defenseless and hollow. Hindman had to build his department almost from scratch in one of the least developed corners of the Confederacy.
Son of a bitch.
But he attacked the problem with ruthless energy. He enforced conscription, sometimes bending the rules by exempting manufacturers of goods he thought vital.
Oh.
He pushed for guerrilla warfare and even declared martial law.
Oh,
Okay.
fuck yeah. He's like one guy from the north.
Right. Burnside.
He would seize troops that would pass through Arkansas for his own use. He ordered all white soldiers in the Indian Territory back into Arkansas. He reopened supply and weapons facilities. We don't need these schools anymore. And even managed to recall an entire division of Missouri troops that had been sent away. He reorganized the cavalry as well, turning them, into one of his historian's words, from ornamental into something generally useful finally. But his hard-edged policies came at a cost.
And his support for guerrilla warfare eventually spiraled into lawlessness.
Oh, yeah, come on.
Union prisoners were sometimes tortured and killed. And some historians suggest that Hindman's open hatred for the Union encouraged that brutality.
I mean,
Militarily, he did manage to set up defensive lines along the White River, though Union forces still defeated the Confederates at St. Charles and Cotton Plant, and they eventually took Helena.
uh-oh.
That loss stung. as we know, that's his home. Mm-hmm. Home. Union General Samuel Curtis, he freed his slaves and occupied his house as well. Oh, that's a dude you should be dueling.
Wow. Well, still, Hindman kept working to rebuild Confederate strength. He sent veterans of the old Missouri State Guard back across the border on recruiting missions. Thousands signed up. Guerrilla activity spiked across Mizzou. When he'd taken command, Arkansas was basically defenseless, with Union forces pushing deep into the state. And within 70 days, Union momentum stalled. Hindman, he built up a Confederate force of more than 20,000. It was a stunning turnaround, achieved through methods that were, well, to put it mildly, very questionable.
Hey, man. He alienated nearly everybody. Planters fumed when he ordered cotton burned so it wouldn't fall in the Union hands, or when he impressed enslaved people to dig fortifications. Conscription was despised across Arkansas, and many came to see Hindman as a tyrant. Historian William Shea summed it up by saying Hindman showed what fanaticism and a complete regard for constitutional rights could accomplish.
Ooh, there it is. A perfect example of that guy. His cooperation with other generals were just as rough. He clashed badly with Albert Pike, who resisted Hindman's order to transfer white troops out of the Indian Territory. Hindman even supported Pike's arrest and wanted him court-martialed over a speech Pike had given to pro-Confederate Native Americans. It was a speech Hindman thought discouraged their loyalty. Oh, well.
The complaints started piling up. Arkansas's political elites despised him, and they flooded the Confederate government with protests. Eventually, Richmond agreed. Hindman, he was too unpopular to keep in charge. July 16th, 1862, he was replaced by Major General Theophilus Holmes, who finally arrived in Arkansas by mid-August. Jeez. Hindman had been effective, but in the process, he'd burned through nearly every ounce of political goodwill he had. And that was in his own home state. Well, not home state, but his home base state.
Wow. Holmes, he didn't exactly arrive in Arkansas with the best reputation either. He'd been shipped west after his poor showing in the 7 Days battle. 7 days. But once he got there, he decided to keep up some of Hindman's most unpopular measures, like martial law. To make things more manageable, Holmes, he divided his command into 3 districts. He handed Hindman control of the District of Arkansas, which covered all of Arkansas, Missouri, and the Indian Territory, so basically what he had before. Both men shared the same ambition. They wanted to invade Missouri.
By late August 1862, Hindman, he was ordered to Fort Smith to prepare for the move. They got there a few days later, but what he found wasn't encouraging. Confederate troops in the region were badly unprepared for an offensive.
Oh, wow.
And the window of good weather was closing fast, with winter in the Ozarks on the horizon. Still in early September, Hindman pushed 6,000 men into southwestern Missouri and set up shop at Pineville.
Nice.
But just a week later, Holmes recalled him back to Little Rock with, it was after Brigadier General Allison Nelson fell gravely ill.
Oh, no.
That let Hindman to handle pressing administrative duties instead.
Oh, okay. Gotta do what you gotta do. While Hindman was away,
boys will play.
And things fell apart quickly. Brigadier General James Raines,
Brigadier General.
he took command, but his forces were pushed back after the First Battle of Newtonia. Then the old rebel army split. One of those fragments was crushed at the Battle of Old Fort Wayne. By mid-October, Hindman returned. He wasted no time in the sacking Raines for drunkenness, and then discovered Union General John Schofield was bearing down in Arkansas with 8,000 to 10,000 troops. Hindman, he retreated across the Boston Mountains. Never knew there was such a thing. Which convinced Schofield that the Confederate threat was over. The confident Schofield pulled 2 divisions back to Missouri, leaving only General James Blunt behind.
Beautiful.
Right. He left him behind in northwestern Arkansas.
And this opened the door for Hindman to gamble.
Ooh.
Even though the Confederates had just lost badly at the Second Battle of Corinth, Holmes reluctantly approved his plan to strike back.
Right, gotta go.
Hindman sent General Marmaduke's cavalry toward Cane Hill to distract Blunt, while he planned to swing the main force into Blunt's rear.
Oh, nice.
But Union scouts picked up Marmaduke's movement, and Blunt pounced.
Oh, okay.
The 2 sides clashed November 28th, and Marmaduke, he was forced to pull out.
Idiots.
Pull out of Blunt's rear, but...
Wow. Still undeterred, despite being desperately short on food and ammo, Hindman advanced with 11,000 men, 22 cannons, and he went towards Cane Hill on 30 December. Blunt prepared for the blow, but just a few days later, Hindman got troubling news. Another Union force under General Francis Huron was marching out of Springfield and would reach Cane Hill on December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day. Hindman improvised. He decided to strike Huron first at Prairie Grove, and then turn and crush Blunt afterward.
It was a risky plan, Cotton. Let's see if it works out. But there was one big flaw. They relied on Blunt staying put.
Uh-oh.
Instead of taking the initiative, Hindman set up a defensive position at Prairie Grove December 7th. When Huron's troops arrived, the battle began, but Blunt wasn't far behind.
Uh-oh.
He reached the field at 1:45 p.m., linking up with Huron, and Hindman's 11,000 men fought both Union forces to a bloody stalemate. But at the end of the day, Hindman pulled back to Van Buren.
Uh-oh. Historians haven't been kind to that decision. One biographer called his switch to the defensive a ghastly mistake. And even his contemporaries saw the error, noting that the waiting for Huron meant inevitably waiting for Blunt.
Clearly, obviously. Why would you not know that?
The old Rebs tried to regroup, but later that month they were chased down and beaten again at the Battle of Van Buren, forcing another retreat back to Little Rock.
Jeez. Even after Prairie Grove, Hindman's reputation in Arkansas wasn't exactly shining. Obviously, his earlier heavy-handed policies had left a lot of people angry, and the Confederate defeat at Prairie Grove only made things worse.
Uh-oh.
The Arkansas congressional delegation petitioned Jefferson Davis to move him out of the state, and that was granted January 30th, 1863. Hindman was reassigned first to preside over a court of inquiry examining the Confederate defeat at the Battle of New Orleans. Well, you're going to have your hands full with that one.
Yeah.
That court met from April through July, with Hindman overseeing the proceedings.
Wow, after the court wrapped up, Hindman requested a return to divisional command in Arkansas. But instead, the old rebel leadership sent him to Tennessee, where he took a division under Lieutenant General Leonidas Polk. Maybe he can whip him in shape, huh? This is the Army of the Tennessee.
This is the Army, Mr. Jones.
He arrived in Chattanooga on August 13th, but quickly...
Oh, no, Chattanooga?
Right, he quickly ran into problems with Army Commander General Braxton Bragg. Just a few days later, Union General William Rosecrans began moving toward Chattanooga with a massive force of 67,000 men.
Wow, some even say there was 1 million, McClellan.
Outnumbered, Bragg, he fell back into northern Georgia. Georgia? And Rosecrans stretched his lines thin, and Bragg saw an opportunity.
Union Division moved into McLemore Cove, which is a spot vulnerable to Confederate attack. On the night of September 9th through the 10th, Bragg ordered Hindman to strike, planning for Claiborne's division to attack from the opposite direction once Hindman engaged. Hey, look at Claiborne. How'd he get back with him?
Right.
But old D.H. Hill argued the maneuver was impossible, and Claiborne only partially advanced.
Oh.
Hindman, meanwhile, stopped early as well, telling Bragg he wouldn't continue unless he knew Claiborne was moving too. I won't go without my buddy.
Right. Wow. By the morning of Patriot Day, Hindman resumed his advance. But the fighting that ensued, later called the Battle of Doug Gap.
You see, Doug, that's his gap.
It was minor. Skirmishing broke out around 4:30 p.m. But by the time Claiborne attacked, the Union forces had already retreated. Historians like Craig Simmons
Whatever, Craig.
have been critical of Hindman's performance here, noting that Bragg's public reprimand was probably deserved.
Oh?
I mean, you got Bragg, you got Hindman. This is a group of frickin' misfits.
Right.
Holy shit.
Well, Bragg then shifted his attention, planning a larger attack on Rosecrans at Lee and Gordon's Mill. This became the Battle of Chickamauga. Oh. We just did the Rock of Chickamauga last week.
Yeah, oh, George. George?
George. This kicked off September 18th with the main Confederate assault on the 19th. Hindman's division was part of the left wing under Lieutenant General James Longstreet. The morning of September 20th, a confusion in the Union line created a gap.
Uh-oh.
Longstreet's forces struck hard, and Hindman's division smashed through 2 Union divisions in just 40 minutes.
Damn.
The Union right wing completely collapsed.
Son of a bitch.
Wow.
During the fight, Hindman was wounded again.
Oh, gosh.
Shrapnel hit his neck, but he stayed on the field. In the early afternoon, Colonel John Wilder's Union Brigade attacked Hindman's left flank, trying to push through to where Major General George H. Thomas still held the line like a rock.
Right.
Wilder was eventually ordered to fall back. After this, Hindman received orders to halt his pursuit of the retreating Union forces and move north to rejoin Longstreet's units.
Oh.
Right.
Hindman's day didn't end there, though.
Oh.
He sent one brigade to support Brigadier General Bushrod Johnson.
Damn right.
Another one to resupply using captured Union ammunition.
Oh.
And planned to send a third once ready. But Johnson attacked before Hindman's 3rd Brigade arrived, and intense close quarters fighting erupted.
Oh, nice. Close quarters fighting. Look at that shit. Hand-to-hand combat. Both Hindman and Johnson believed that they were in command of the combined forces, thanks to Longstreet's unclear instructions. The fighting raged until nightfall, and Thomas, facing attacks from both Longstreet and Polk's wings, finally withdrew. Bragg, he decided not to pursue the retreating Union forces, leaving Hindman and his division to regroup after one of the bloodiest days of the war yet. Don't worry, guys.
It's already over.
Oh, yeah.
Things took a rocky turn for Hindman on September 29th, 1863. General Bragg suspended both Lieutenant General Polk for neglect of duty and Hindman for disobedience of the lawful command of a superior officer.
Oh.
Hindman's charge was tied to the Macklemore Cove incident.
Right.
He was sent to Atlanta to wait while the situation unfolded. Historians describe the suspensions as both ill-timed and largely unwarranted, suggesting Bragg was trying to clear out critics from his command.
Okay.
Even though Hindman hadn't even openly opposed him.
Oh.
He's like, this dude's an idiot.
Right. Wow.
They're both saying that about each other because they both seem stupid.
While in suspension, Hindman got to work.
This is recovering. What the fuck is he recovering?
He prepared reports and petitions to challenge it. 8th of November, he formally requested a court of inquiry. By this time, several of Bragg's officers had already sent a petition to President Davis, who had also received civilian letters criticizing Bragg's generalship.
Yeah.
Old Davis declared the suspension of Hindman and Polk void, and even traveled to the army to enforce it, though Bragg initially resisted.
But finally, November 15th, Bragg, wanting to avoid a formal inquiry, he dropped the charges against Hindman and ordered him reinstated at once.
Oh.
Hindman, he was allowed to stay on leave until December 15th, though.
Oh, nice.
So his wife could recover from a serious illness and give birth at the same time.
Oh, damn.
Meanwhile, Bragg himself was removed from command November 30th, and he was replaced by Joseph Johnston December 27th.
Mm-hmm.
Hindman temporarily took command of a corps until Major General John Bell Hood arrived February 25th to assume permanent command.
Damn right he did. Over the winter of 1863-1864, Hindman began supporting the controversial idea of arming slaves for the Confederate cause. Claiborne made a public case.
Oh, you don't want to free them, but you want to use them to save your ass because you guys are getting whacked.
Right. Claiborne, Hindman's right-hand man, made a public case for the plan, but rejected. Unwilling to serve directly under Hood, Hindman requested a transfer to an inspector general role, or even behind the lines post in Florida, or even southern Georgia. I don't care. Get me out of Hood's division. When a transfer hadn't been acted on by February 28th, he submitted his resignation. He's like, you know what? I'm fucking out.
Yeah, but he didn't truly intend to leave. It was all a tactical move, hoping the Confederate government would instead transfer him.
No.
That didn't work. The resignation was denied on March 23rd. Said, you're staying put, bitch. And he officially resumed command of his division April 3rd. Hindman's hope for a transfer or promotion had been hampered by his support for Claiborne.
I don't understand. When they got guys like this, why keep on putting him in command? Just make him a regular fucking soldier.
I don't think you can do that, bud.
Of course you can. Demote the mother.
I don't think you can do that. Once an officer off, he's an officer.
Yeah, see?
His hopes for a transfer or promotion have been hampered, though, by his support for Claiborne's radical proposal. Bragg's lingering influence as an advisor to Davis, yeah. And his that's the stupidest thing ever. We're getting all sorts of reports and petitions from troops and civilians alike that Bragg's a piece of shit, so why don't I make him my advisor?
Right.
Stupid. Plus, he had his ongoing unpopularity in the Trans-Mississippi from his previous actions in Arkansas. I mean, this dude just can't get your shit together, guy.
Early May 1864, Confederates all but lost war. Union Major General William T. Sherman kicked off the Atlanta campaign, moving nearly 100,000 men against Johnston's Confederates in northern Georgia. The Confederates fell back from Dalton and dug in at Resaca, where the Battle of Resaca began on May 13th. Hindman's division was in the thick of it. After repelling a Union infantry charge, his troops endured heavy artillery fire. Other rebels units, they tried to hit the Union left. They stopped, dead in their tracks by reinforcements.
Yep, fighting dragged into a third day, May 15th, and Union cavalry even struck the rear of Hindman's division, raiding a field hospital, destroying supplies, and even taking some prisoners.
Oh.
By around 1 p.m., another unit assault came at Hindman's line, but once again his men held firm. Still, Johnson realized that Union forces were threatening his lines of communication, so he ordered a withdrawal that night. Said, we gotta go.
We gotta go. I know. The retreat continued with skirmishes as Johnston's forces established a new position near Marietta in June. June 22nd, 2 Blue Coat Corps pushed forward and ran into Hood's division at Kolb's Farm. Hood ordered a counterattack, sending Hindman's division and Major General Carter Stevenson's division into the fight. Stevenson's men badly mauled. Hindman's troops ran into a swamp, forcing them to fall back. One Union officer later claimed that artillery alone had stopped Hindman's charge, with his infantry barely even engaging. That's how you want it.
Yeah, but the fight didn't end there. June 27th, Sherman launched costly frontal assaults at Kennesaw Mountain, only to be bloodily repulsed before outflanking Johnston's line and forcing another Confederate retreat. During this withdrawal, Hindman suffered an unexpected injury.
Oh, no.
Riding through a forest, a tree branch struck his face, throwing him from his horse and causing severe eye inflammation.
Oh.
The injury sidelined him from field command, and he had to go to Atlanta, then Macon to recover.
Oh, shit.
Temporarily stepping away from the front lines of the campaign. Damn, right? Imagine that.
Son of a bitch. By the 10th of July, 1864, Hindman was growing increasingly restless. He requested a transfer to the Trans-Mississippi, but his unpopularity in Arkansas made that impossible.
Give it up, guy.
Right. Instead, he was offered a leave of absence to recover from his injuries.
Why don't you just get out of here?
Right. Historians suggest that Hindman may have taken the leave less out of medical necessity and more out of frustration over being passed over for a promotion. One rebel officer even remarked that Hindman was anxious to get away. Everyone else, equally so, to get rid of him. No, damn.
Hindman, he chose to go to San Antonio, Texas,
Nice.
anticipating several months away from the front. Move was complicated. He couldn't take all of his family slaves, so some were hired out to the Army of Tennessee's medical director.
Oh.
To support his family while in Texas, Hindman borrowed money to buy tobacco in Alabama, arranged for it to be shipped using Confederate military wagons, which was a common practice, though he faced some criticism for it.
Oh, whatever. Why, wow. Setting out in late August, the journey was arduous. Tragically, one of his daughters fell ill.
Oh, fucking dysentery.
Yeah, and died near Meridian, Mississippi, and was buried along the way. In early November, Hindman's party crossed at the Mississippi, now largely under Union control.
Well, he's not. I guess he's still in the Army, but he's not active. Can they capture him?
Maybe. They reached Shreveport, Louisiana, where the wagons carrying his personal effects drew more scrutiny.
Why? Mm-hmm. Well, finally, the Hindmans arrived in San Antonio, January 1865. By then, the Confederacy was crumbling. Atlanta, gone. Rumors swirled about Hindman, some claiming General Kirby Smith had ordered his arrest over the tobacco. Others suggesting he had deserted to serve Emperor Maximilian in Mexico. Over the spring, the inevitable happened. Robert E. Lee and Johnson, they surrendered, which was followed by Smith on June 2nd. But Hindman, already under indictment for treason in Arkansas, he refused to give himself up. Instead, he and his family, along with other Confederates, crossed the Rio Grande at Laredo, entering Mexico, and eventually settled in Monterey.
No shit.
That begins a new chapter far from the war that had so consumed his life.
Son of a bitch, this guy, huh? He got pushed out of the old United States. Hindman had expected life in Mexico to be relatively straightforward, but reality quickly proved otherwise. Despite learning Spanish, he struggled to get his law practice off the ground. Matters became even more complicated when the Emperor Maximilian, wary of ex-Confederates gaining too much influence near the northern frontier, they said, you know what, you guys gotta go.
You gotta
go.
Well, the Hindmans, they first moved to Saltillo, then Montelise, and finally made their way to Mexico City, September. Damn, they're far down there.
Holy shit. Fuck you, I want to go that deep into Mexico.
That's where Hindman hoped to negotiate with Maximilian for land for the ex-Confederates. They have their own city. In Mexico City, the Hindmans became friends with Maximilian and his wife Carlotta.
Oh, wow.
Family welcomed their 5th child that December, and Hindman found time to publish 2 works on military theory as well.
Oh, shit. Look at that. So they were right. He did want to go cozy up with old Maximilian.
Right.
They later moved to Carlotta, a settlement where many former Confederates had gathered. But even there, agriculture struggled. The local poverty made it impossible for Hindman to establish a thriving legal practice. 1866, he joined other ex-Confederates in a plan to establish a colony in the Yucatan Peninsula. But the scheme fell apart as foreign support for Maximilian waned. The family moved again, this time to Orizaba, the Orizaba, narrowly avoiding destruction of Carlotta when rebels razed it.
Oh. As Maximilian's rule collapsed, the Hindmans were forced to return to the United States. They arrived in Helena, April 1867.
Damn, just keeps on going back there, huh?
Maximilian himself was overthrown and executed in mid-June.
Oh, shit.
Hindman requested a pardon from President Andrew Johnson, but it was denied.
Yeah.
Once back in Helena, he resumed his legal work with John Palmer, and later M.T. Sanders slowly reestablished in his professional life.
Oh, good for you, bud. Wow. Hindman also, how did he get back into politics?
He's not even a citizen anymore.
Jeez, Hindman also plunged back into politics. He vocally opposed the radical Republicans, criticized the 1868 Arkansas Constitution, spoke out against the GOP candidacy of Republican Powell Clayton. In response, Republican leaders, desperate to silence him, revived his 1865 treason indictment. He's like, all right, keep talking, bitch.
Right.
And Hindman arrested 20th of March, 1868. Though he's still allowed to remain at liberty pending trial, he was excluded from President Johnson's July amnesty.
Being charged for a crime, bud.
That pardoned most former Confederates. Undeterred, as Hindman always was and is, he became the leader of the political faction called the Young Democracy.
Abdicating for ex-Confederates and freed slaves to take the loyalty oath required by the 1868 Constitution and participate in elections, the group criticized Republican leaders as opportunists, exploiting Reconstruction for personal gain.
Okay.
Slowly, Hindman built a following that blended former Confederates with newly enfranchised freedmen,
Oh, wow.
setting the stage for his return to Arkansas politics.
That shit. Well, on the night of 27th of September, 1868, Hindman's life came to a sudden, violent end. Sitting at home with his children, a shot rang out through a window, striking him in the neck and jaw, and severing his windpipe.
Damn.
His wife, in a desperate bid to save his life, carried him onto the porch as neighbors rushed to the scene. Hindman, conscious despite his wounds, told those around him that the attack was politically motivated and asked a relative of his wife to look after his family. He died early the next morning, leaving Arkansas stunned and mourning. How's he talking with the shot through windpipe?
Right. Rumors and accusations swirled immediately. Many pointed fingers at the Republican Party, suspecting political foul play. But the identity of the assassin remains a mystery to this day.
Oh, wow.
At one point, a man named Louis Vaughn, he claimed he'd been hired by Daniel Linthicum to carry out the murder, but it was later revealed that Vaughn's story was a personal vendetta.
Oh, okay.
He sought revenge on Linthicum for exposing him as a bigamist in 1866. Jeez. Years later, 1876, an arsonist in Georgia confessed on the eve of his execution to having killed Hindman. Yet his testimony conflicted with the known facts of the case.
Right. Wow. Hindman laid to rest at what is now Maple Hill Cemetery in Helena. His remains moved there in 1870. His legacy endured other ways as well. Hindman Hall, the museum at Prairie Grove Battlefield State Park. This was constructed with funds from the estate of his son, Biscoe, serving as a lasting memorial to the life and turbulent career of Thomas C. Hindman. And so, Hindman's story comes to an end. But the echoes of his life and actions reverberate far beyond the years he walked the earth. From a fiery young politician in Arkansas, challenging the know-nothings and the powerful family, all the way to a relentless Confederate general whose boldness often bordered on recklessness, Thomas C. Hindman left a mark wherever he went.
He did. He was a man of contradictions, brilliant and energetic, yet uncompromising and deeply polarizing.
Oh, wow.
He was admired for his organizational skill and courage in battle, yet reviled for his harsh measures, extra-legal tactics. There's extra-legal.
All right.
And unflinching enforcement of conscription and martial law.
Oh.
His military career, from the fields of Shiloh to Prairie Grove and Chickamauga, they showed both brilliance and stubbornness. Moments of stunning tactical success tempered by misjudgments and personal conflicts with other commanders.
Can't do that.
Yet even in defeat, Hindman's energy reshaped the Confederacy's trans-Mississippi forces and created a formidable, if controversial, army where there had been little.
Oh. After the war, Hindman's life reflected the turmoil of Reconstruction-era Arkansas. From exile in Mexico to his return in legal and political activism in Helena, he remained a figure who challenged authority, fought for his beliefs, He refused to be silenced,
Except for he was.
even as threats and dangers surrounded him. His assassination in 1868, politically charged and mysterious, was a tragic end to a life defined by conflict, defined by ambition, and defined by unyielding will.
Well, he's remembered as one of the most dynamic and divisive figures of his era. His legacy is complex, a man who inspired loyalty and fear, brilliance and infamy, who left his mark on politics, war, and the turbulent history of Arkansas. From the battlefield to the courtroom, from political rallies to guerrilla campaigns, Thomas C. Hindman's life reminds us that history is rarely simple, and that people who shape it are rarely one-dimensional. That's going to do it for old Thomas C. Hindman. What a,
Wow.
I don't know, dude. This guy might be the craziest one. I'm not crazy, but like weird. I don't know what the word I'm looking for him, but
He's-
dude wanted to duel every 5 seconds and got himself in so much trouble.
Yeah.
Like, dude, what are you gonna do?
Well,
What are you gonna do?
What are
It's
you gonna
another chapter in the old Confederates belts there. That's where we're wrapping up on him. We'll be back next week for a Union guy, no doubt.
Ooh.
No diggity doubt, no diggity, but to bag it up. Make the way you work it. We got a lot of people left, dude.
Yep.
I kind of almost, well, I didn't even get all the way, broke it down between like Union and Confederate generals we have left. We have at least 30 to 35 episodes on each, so like 70 episodes on somebody from both sides left.
Crazy boys.
And that's not, I didn't even get to the end of like the list of people. I'm like, holy shit, dude, there's so many of these fucking guys that have a story. And
fantastic.
but yeah,
Loving every minute of
and
it.
it's all going to be here, right here, on right here on Battles of the Makers of a War, Behind the Battles, and we'll see you next week. We're the Month of Music Industry.
Bang, dang.